Okay, so before you start phase one of your final project, I just want to make sure that you did complete the two intro assignments here on Figma, because basically we're going to be taking what we've learned in the last 2 weeks and really expanding and perfecting. Now, whereas last week the assignment, I wasn't so focused on the actual design as I was with you, just navigating and exploring additional tools. This final project will be expected to have design in mind, as well as correctly using the tools on Figma. Assignment, you are going to be creating a home page and subsequently two more pages based on the business you chose for your mood board. So either an ice cream shop, a museum, or a animal rescue. For this assignment, I am providing you with it's an illustrated wireframe, which is basically the layout of how your pages should look. Isn't an exact picture of the design, but it is going to show the layout and the functions of elements in the design. You see in the assignment description that we are going to be creating a web page for a desktop, so meaning not mobile or tablet. And you can actually use the same assignment if you have it available of the introduction of Figma when you created the columns, and you can just work from there, or we can create a new one, and you will be solely using Figma to build your page. There are required elements for each page. On your header, I want you to create a logo for the business you chose. This could be something as simple as a big letter or a simple illustration using shapes to identify your brand or the business. You are going to create a navigation that includes 5 buttons, which I have provided what each button should say. Where did I do it? Right up here. So for your ice cream shop, your buttons should include home, about, menu, gallery, and content. Museum, home, about, exhibitions, gallery, contact. If you did a pet rescue, home, about, adopt, donate, contact. And you are going to create you're going to simulate a sticky navigation, and by that I mean the button should signify that you are on that page. So if you're on the home page and you have, for your ice cream site, and you have home, about, menu, gallery, contact, this word home, this button, would be different looking than the others. It could be underlined, or it could be a different color box around it, or a different color type, but I want to be able to see that I know I am on the home page. And then in the footer, you need to include copyright 2025, your first name and your last name, Minneapolis College, and then you're going to repeat the same navigation in the header, these 5 buttons, in the footer. And then the content of the page, a headline that is attention grabbing. It could be a tagline or slogan that you choose for your business. And then below that, one paragraph, I'm looking for 5 to 6 sentences about your chosen business. Please write this yourself. And then to the right of that paragraph and headline, you're going to include an image that you find either online for a free stock image site such as Unsplash, or if you are feeling creative yourself, maybe some of your own photography or an illustration is fine too. And then you will create a link to your prototype. In Figma, this is called a prototype because it is not the officially launched project. It is more as a representation of the experience of the website that we are working on, and it's just one page this week, but as we get further into the phase 2 and 3 of this project, you will be adding additional pages that you can click from one to the other. This is a prototype. Down to the bottom of this page, you'll see the wireframe sketch I'm providing. Go ahead and click on that, and you will see that it's just very rough. It just includes everything that you need to have. I do have this layout that I suggest. However, feel free to use your own creative freedom to lay it out how you'd like, but keep in mind that these are requirements. You're going to see up here that it says Gestalt website phase 1. That's because I used to use the laws of Gestalt as the topic for this project, and I have changed it since then to be more fun, in my opinion, with the ice cream shop, museum, and pet rescue. You're gonna see where I suggest putting a logo, the 5 navigation for the main navigation here, the header, the page's body, and the footer, and the information that I said needs to be included in the footer as well. We are back in Figma, and I am just using the same column board that we did for the assignment 2 weeks ago, Introduction to Figma. And I can go right down here to frame, and I can click that, and I can see that we are creating a desktop page at 1440 by 1024. If you don't have this set up, you are going to want to go back to the Introduction to Figma assignment to create this columns. All right, so looking at our wireframe, we can see that we should probably start with background. So we're going to build rectangles for our header and footer because that is underneath the navigation and the logo and the information. So I'm just going to create a rectangle here. Typically, the headers and footers will go across the whole board. Sometimes, like we did last week, we restricted it to the area of the contents, meaning these columns. But the content and anything that's readable or visual, such as images, are going to remain within the boundaries of these columns. So let's see here. Bring up our wireframe here. The first thing I'm going to create is a boxes for the header and the footer. That would be basically considered like a background element, since the logo and the navigation and the information will be on top of that. So let's start with that by going down to your shapes. Let's do a rectangle. Typically, headers and footers are going to go across the whole page, but they can sometimes be restricted to the boundaries of the columns. But for any other content, such as anything that's readable or visual, such as your images, you are going to keep it within the boundaries of the 12 column grid. And using the 12 column grid is just very important because and we're not doing it for this assignment, but in the future, you make adaptable pages for when they need to change size. For example, on your phone, going from desktop to phone or tablet, and you're not going to be, like I said, you're not going to be doing that here, but for coding purposes, this 12 column grid is extremely important. Right, so I have my rectangle here for my header. I'm not going to keep it gray. I didn't have a plan design in mind. I'm kind of just doing it as I go along here for the sake of this tutorial video, but I think I am also going to do ice cream shop. So I'm going to pick a color, oh, that's a little jarring, that I feel would be on brand for an ice cream shop. Maybe, let's see here. There you go. Maybe this kind of bright blue. I'm gonna go ahead and create a rectangle for the footer as well. There we go. And maybe for this one, I'll also do a blue, but I think I'm gonna do, no, not blue. Let's do maybe like this pink here. All right. Remember, you can choose any color scheme you want. I highly suggest referring to your mood board because it would be really neat to look at your final product compared to your mood board to see how inspired you were by the images that you chose for your mood board and the colors and the fonts. You also don't have to create these to the size I did, your header and footer. You can make them any size you wish, as long as it fits on your board here. Remember, you don't have to follow along with the exact same colors that I'm doing. Please use a color scheme that you feel fit for your brand and hopefully are inspired to use based on your mood boards that you turned in. You also don't have to do the same size headers and footers that I did. You can do whatever size you want for those. Referring back to the wireframe, you can see that we need to create a logo. You can do this right here in Figma. I have it on the wireframe off to the left here. You can do it in the center. You can do it on the right if you want, but just make sure it stays within the 12 column grid. I'm just going to create something real simple quickly here. I'm going to go down to the shape tool and click the drop down and do a circle. Okay, I'm gonna do I have everything snapping around here and I don't enjoy that. All right, here I go. Okay, so I'm gonna change the color of my logo here, something that's going to be complementary against this blue up here, maybe this orangish gold, kind of more yellow, I guess. And then I'm going to move it up here, making sure it's in the grid. I'm going to actually resize this a little bit here. There you go. And then I'm gonna place some text for the name of the business. I don't have one in mind, so I'm just going to call it ice cream. Apologies for my lack of creativity here, but I am going to left align it under the typography panel here, and then I'm gonna pick a different font. I think I'm gonna pick the same font that I used last week because this looks like it could be fun for an ice cream shop. And then for the color, you can do whatever color you want. I'm just gonna keep this black for now. And I think I'm also going to make it larger. So font size, there we go. I don't like the way this type is off the circle here, but I don't want it necessarily in this whole circle. So I think I am gonna create another little circle here. And under the layers, I'm gonna move ellipse 2 under ice cream here, so that when I move it over here, it's going to be under the type. There we go, it went back to it, so I'm just gonna drag it there. And I'm gonna change the color. Here's some recently used colors on the bottom, so if I just pick that one, it's going to bring it back to the same color, but I'm gonna change it just a little bit here. Maybe like that. All right, that looks good. Since this is our logo made up of 3 different elements, the 2 circles and the type, I'm gonna group these objects together. So if I go to the layers panel and I select ice cream and I hold down Shift, I can select both circles as well. And then I can just go up to Object and Group Selection, or Command G. So now you see that I can move all 3 of these elements around together because they are one object, creating our logo for ice cream. And I'm actually going to move it to the left edge of the first column here. And I am just going to size it to make sure it fits in the left edge of this first column and the right edge of the third column to keep it within the 3 columns here. According to my wireframe, my text is going to be on the left side of this page, and it's about half of the page, so I'm going to take up 6 columns for text here. So got my text tool, there we go, and then I think it said write 5 to 6 sentences. All right, and then I'm going to create a headline. And my headline is going to span across the entirety of the columns. And I think my headline is going to say, I'm just going to use the same tagline that I did in my text down here, but please be more creative than I am with your headline. And let's see, I'm gonna make it bigger. can also type in your own number too if you want. I'm gonna try to keep it within these 10 columns here. So let's see. There we go. 98 looks like it does the job. All right, and then on the wireframe, remember my right side is going to contain an image. So just like we did last week here, I'm gonna go up to File, Place Image. I think I have one saved already here. There we go. It's so big. Let me zoom out here. There we go. And I'm going to resize it to fit within these 4 columns. I'm going to move my text down a little bit here because this all seems a little too tight. There we go. I also don't like that this word is up there. There we go. Okay. We have 5 items that we need to include in both the header and the footer, and within the constraints of the columns. So I'm going to do rectangle again. No, I'm gonna do some ovals here. And zoom in here just a little bit. I'm gonna create 5 of them. And then I'm going to copy them quickly by holding down Option. And I can already see that these are going to be too big because I can only fit 4 here. So I'm going to reduce the size of them slightly. And I'm going to move this up a little bit here. And then four, 5. Oh no, what did I do here? Okay. That's better. So you can see, originally I really wanted them to span across 2 columns and the gutter in between each column, but with the number of buttons that we need, based on the amount of space that we have, that wasn't going to work, and that's totally okay. You can, rearrange your design to accommodate that if you want, but this looks just fine. I'm actually gonna select all of these again and press Option, and I'm gonna copy it and just drag it right down to the bottom to the footer as well. There you go. Okay, so I'm gonna add some text to these, what will be clickable buttons. And I believe for ice cream, I have about, and obviously that is way too big. So I'm gonna, let's try 24 here. All right. And then I'm going to, oh, actually, the about should be probably over here. And home should be the first one. There we go. And then I'm going to include the other required text on these buttons. Add a little bit, you can see that I just added a couple more things like a background color here. I also grouped my text and ovals into one object. I'm gonna refine this still a little bit, move some stuff around for next week. And I added the required information into the footer here. So from here, you're going to go into present. Oh, one more thing. As we add on the other two pages, starting next week, we'll go over how to make these buttons functional, and that's when we'll get into the sticky navigation, where you can see on the buttons exactly which page you're on. Okay, so from here, go to present. And then to the right of share prototype, click down and go to fill screen. And then when you click on share prototype, make sure who has access. It says anyone can view. And then go ahead and copy that link. And then that link that you just copied is what you are going to turn into the phase 1 assignment folder. Thank you.